opportunity, I will criticize the government, I will criticize the president, so long as it's not personally. And basically, they will understand. But in other countries, that never happens, Mr. Speaker. So I think the opportunity of us having an opportunity where we sit in the house and the president is sitting somewhere and is listening to these contributions of the issues affecting our country makes Kenya a better place to live and a better place to work. And for us leaders, it will give us an opportunity to make Kenyans feel that we are actually a united front in trying to solve their problems. Mr. Speaker, we should try our level best and make sure that we do not permanently subdivide our country where it is for and those are against. Sometimes it's in between. Sometimes we carry each other, sometimes we encourage each other, and sometimes we go our separate ways. But we are better off when we are Kenyans and we look at this country that we love dearly and we want to succeed so that we leave it for posterity and our children. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion passionately. Thank you, sir.
Senator Wafula.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii. Ningependa vile vile kuongeza sauti na mchango wangu kwa mchakato wa muda utakaochukua rais kuhutubia jamii ya Kenya, na vile vile sisi kama viongozi wa jumbe katika bunge la Senate kutoa michango yetu. Kwangu Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba isiwe kwamba rais anapohutubia nchi katika jumba la kitaifa ni kama kuwe na sherehe za kitaifa pale ambapo wanazungumza, tunapiga makofi, watu wanakunywa na kula na kuhesabu siku baada ya siku. Tunataraji kwamba yale ambayo viongozi katika jumba hili watatamka, mikakati ama vile mdahalo utakavyokuwa unachukua mikondo tofauti, lazima mawaziri ambao watakuwa wameambatana na Mheshimiwa Rais wahakikishe kwamba mabadiliko haya yanashuhudiwa katika wakati unaostahili. Mheshimiwa Rais, sisi ambao tuko katika serikali tuna jukumu kubwa kwamba japo tunawapa watu matumaini, lazima washuhudie na wajihusishe katika kutekeleza yale tunazungumza. Najiunga na wale katika mrengo wa upinzani kwamba isiwe rais akizungumza ni kana kwamba ametamatisha yale yote atakayosema ama atakayofanya, lakini ni kuhakikisha kwamba anapozungumza atende. Na kutenda kwake ni sisi katika serikali kuhakikisha tunawasukuma mawaziri kutekeleza yale ambayo tunataka. Mwaka 2027 tutakuwa katika mchakato wa kura, na wapiga kura watatuuliza, mlizungumza mkatupa matumaini, iwaje hamukutenda chochote? Sasa mimi kama mkereketo wa serikali ni kwamba rais aje, na ikiwezekana aje katika jumba la Senate, kwa sababu Senate huzungumza mambo ya county. Kuna pesa ambazo wanabiashara hawajalipwa, kuna mikakati ama agenda za county ambazo watu wanajadili hapa. Lazima rais ajue kwamba yale tunayotarajiwa kufanya kama Senate ni tofauti sana na yale ambayo wale katika jumba la kitaifa hufanya, na kwamba napotujibu ama napopeana mwelekeo kuhusiana na ugatuzi, lazima Wakenya wajue Senate, jumba la Senate ndio ulinzi, ndio matumaini ama ndio ngao ya ugatuzi katika nchi ya Kenya. Sasa mimi naunga mkono, tupewe nafasi mwafaka, tujieleze, rais atusikize, na baadaye tuone akitekeleza ama mawaziri wake wakitekeleza yale ambayo tunazungumza hapa. Kwa sababu siamini kwamba senator yeyote katika nchi ya Kenya anaweza amka hapa akapeana mwelekeo hafifu ama akapotosha rais kuhusiana na kutekelezaji wa miradi ya maendeleo na falsafa ya nchi. Sasa lazima tusikize sisi wote na atende kwa mujibu wa katiba. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Senator Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to support the motion that was brought by the majority whip, Senator Boni Halwale. Mr. Speaker, on the President's address to Parliament, I want to support that should happen. But Mr. Speaker, sir, that should not only be a formality that the president comes to parliament and addresses parliamentarians on a number of issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, a number of concerns for Kenyans remain unresolved. And I look forward to the coming presidential address to Parliament addressing a number of issues that are of concern to Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, the issue of the junior secondary school remains unsolved. It is not a secret that our students, a number of them, and a number of schools and in major regions went untaught. Mr. Speaker, sir, the nature of secondary school is that teachers are trained to teach 2 subjects. But, Mr. Speaker, when you look around in most of the schools, there were only 2 teachers that were posted to teach in our schools. And, Mr. Speaker, that shows that in most of the schools, a number of subjects were not taught in the whole year. Mr. Speaker, it's not easy to take this for granted because it only means that most of the subjects were not taught, and so that generation will have an education system that is wanting. Mr. Speaker, if that is repeated this year and the following year and the years to come, it means that our products will not be competing with the products from other regions. Mr. Speaker, as the President comes, I'm looking forward that that will be addressed amongst other challenges that our people have, including the issue that concerns this country, the issue of house levy. Mr. Speaker, as the President comes, we are also looking forward to a very robust debate in Parliament after that, and I pray that the debates and our sentiments will be taken care of. I support, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Essie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support this motion, yes. The President, being a representative of the people, is actually a very integral symbol for Parliament also. Mr. Speaker, in as much as this is a platform for the President to articulate his agenda and communicate what his intentions to the country are, I don't think it should be more about the debating. On that, I want to slightly deviate, because in as much as we debate very well on some of these issues, if action is not followed thereafter, then it becomes more of a praise and worship agenda, Mr. Speaker, which will not steer this country forward. Mr. Speaker, this is an opportunity for government to articulate what their agenda is, and I do not even understand why some of our cabinet secretaries have been shying off from coming here and articulating the agenda they have, or rather how they are sorting some of the issues we are saying. Just like Senator Beatrice has mentioned the issue of JSS teachers. The other time before we went for recess, I raised a statement inquiring from TSC on the career progression of those people, and the response given back to me was focusing on retired teachers, which I saw was an attempt to dodge the question I was raising. Several thousands of young people watching this engagement this morning are actually looking forward to this House to address some of those issues facing them. So, Mr. Speaker, the President will come and guide us here very well. We are ambassadors of what our administration is doing, but we have a burden of responsibility to also ensure we actualize whatever promises we gave to our people. And I weep for young people, because if sincerely education is the key, then why do we make it so difficult for people who have gone to school? The other time I saw a report by EACC mentioning of people with forged academic papers. We have so many young people lying out there with very good qualifications. Some of them are even going to the graves with unfulfilled dreams, Mr. Speaker. So yes, we are going to support the President articulating his agenda here. In this case, if I actually mention, our President, Dr. William Ruto, has been on the forefront defending what his agenda is, in as much as I take note that we have our own share of challenges, but we as legislators, this shouldn't be a platform of competing to see who's doing what best. This is an opportunity for we to bring our brains together, regardless of whatever political side you are in, so that we tackle the challenges that are facing this country jointly, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support that motion with those remarks. Thank you.
Senator Asige Crystal.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you and honorable members a very happy new year. Speaker, I rise to just make one point on this topic. When the President comes and makes his address to parliamentarians twice so far, the Parliament grounds is always alight with activities. It's buzzing with preparations being made to receive the President and his delegation, and parliamentarians who are very keen to hear the agenda that he will set forth. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, so far there has been no agenda that I have heard of addressing the constituents that I stand here to represent every single day. Mr. Speaker, twice we have heard the voice of the President, and twice we have not heard the voice of the President speaking on matters of disability inclusion, of equity, and of diversity in this country. Mr. Speaker, in the campaign trail, Dr. William Sami Ruto walked, that's what I said. Maybe my accent is passing the heads of others. Mr. Speaker, when Dr. Ruto went into his campaign trail in 2022, he called many of us people with disabilities. He sat with us in many forums. He picked our brains in terms of what we wish to see this country look like in terms of inclusion. And we gave him ideas, and we had conversations across the country in hopes that this agenda will one day come into fruition. Unfortunately, in the opening of Parliament 2022 and in the State of the Nation address last year, we did not hear our voices or our ideas articulated in the President's address. And still, Mr. Speaker, we do not hear of the same. So we wonder, is this just an exercise of lip service? Because in my view, when I came into this place to represent persons with disabilities, I saw the President's address being somewhat of an open feedback loop, where he comes to address parliamentarians, to give his ideas and direction, and we in turn respond with our reactions and contributions on how to make those ideas better. But unfortunately, so far, it feels to our community, persons with disabilities, that he addresses us, but he does not listen when we try to address our issues to him. Mr. Speaker, if ever the President hears my voice, I hope that he hears it today. The representative of persons with disabilities in this Senate, requesting him to kindly put forth our agenda, to prioritize the largest minority in this country of almost 6 million voters. That is persons with disabilities, a group that should no longer be ignored, because we have votes, we also have money to spend in this economy, we can also make a big change and move the needle in all plans regarding Kenya. So I hope that in future, Mr. Speaker, that the President's addresses will also address us, because we are waiting to be publicly seen and heard by the executive. I thank you.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to address this House. Mr. Speaker, on the motion that has been brought before this House or moved by the majority whip, Mr. Speaker, as you will notice, it's referred to as a procedural motion, and that's what it is, procedural. It is a tool designed by the Constitution to give the President an opportunity to come back and account to this House on the mandate that has been placed on him by the Constitution and ultimately by the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, when the President comes to address the House, the symbolic address is not just to the House, it is an address to the representatives of the people. Mr. Speaker, those have been elected by the people of Kenya to represent them in the House, Mr. Speaker. And if you will notice, Mr. Speaker, in the functions of the President, that comes in as the top function of the President. And that shows just how important that tool is, not just to the House itself, but also to the Constitution and also to the people of Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, having noted that, then it shows just how important this procedural motion is and why it cannot be trivialized into politics, Mr. Speaker. Because when the President comes to address the House, and as he addresses the Kenyan through the legislative arm, Mr. Speaker, he's coming to give an account of what he has done with the mandate and the implementation of the promise that have been given to the Kenya, especially during the election period, Mr. Speaker. It's an address that deals with the day-to-day issues that Kenyans are going through: health, education, security, issues, food security, Mr. Speaker, issues that deal with general security or insecurity of the nation, budgetary constraints or budgets that Kenya is running on, Mr. Speaker. It deals with the whole mandate that the executive is working on, Mr. Speaker. And as such, it becomes an important tool through which this House, Mr. Speaker, can also use to address the constituents, because these leaders also are called to account by the people, Mr. Speaker. You know, it's very easy for the members of Parliament to put a big focus on the presidents and the address without remembering that equally, as you cascade downwards, the members of Senate and members of National Assembly will be required by Kenyans to equally give an account with what they have done as a mandate, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, when I listened to one of our colleagues saying that members should address these issues in 2 minutes, then I knew we are misunderstanding the procedural motion that is before this House, Mr. Speaker. One of the things we should not use is to politicize the presidential address. And I'm in total agreement when there is a proposal that the President should sit in, actually hear the members give the feedback, because that feedback is a performance appraisal, Mr. Speaker. And it should be objective, because if the presidency succeeds, the nation succeeds. If the presidency fails, the nation fails, Mr. Speaker. And the minute we recognize that, Mr. Speaker, we will be more keen to come in and give objective criticism when that debate is being done. Give commendations where it is due, give objective criticism where it is needed, Mr. Speaker, and improve the process along the way. The minute we understand how such a tool is supposed to help governance issues, then, Mr. Speaker, it will come to yield for the Kenyans. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion, and I rise to say that it should not be trivialized, and the tool should be dealt with as an important tool and given sufficient time, Mr. Speaker. One other thing I wish to note, Mr. Speaker, ni kwamba Senator mmoja kati yetu, Senator Wakoli,
Senator Veronica, you are totally out of order. You need to stick on the language that you chose first to make a
Mr. Speaker, why I switched that language and I stand advised, Mr. Speaker, was to commend Senator Wakoli Wafula for being very good in Swahili. And I wanted to state it in Swahili and to say that when he's next taking tea among the senators, he should be taking 1 minute to instruct the senators on how to address the nation sometimes using the Kiswahili language and promoting the Kiswahili language among the Kenyans. That's why I was switching the language, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Kavindu.